Hey everyone, it's Stu here from 3B. Now, as I'm sure you're pretty well aware that The Last of Us 2 has now got a new launch date of the 19th of June, which I think is pretty interesting considering what we've been going through the last couple of months or so. Now, when they first announced that there would be a delay, they would say that it would be they just didn't know when it would be launched again. And I think the reason why, and we've discussed this a little bit before, is because they simply were not too sure as to what a response of a game like this would be during the pandemic in which we're experiencing now. And I think they fear that if they had released the game back when they were meant to release it, which I think would have been in a couple of weeks' time, I think back then when they made that decision, they think that possibly would have been too soon and it would all be kind of a bit too raw for people, considering that The Last of Us 2 and The Last of Us are about a virus that spreads across the globe and turns everyone into face-eating zombies. Now, admittedly, COVID-19 is somewhat different, but it is unfortunately and tragically killing thousands of people. So I think Sony didn't want that kind of association to a landmark key game that is the swan song of the PlayStation 4. They didn't want that association to be had. And I think now that with all things COVID having calmed down a bit, and by that I mean in terms of the initial, damn, this is a pandemic we're having to deal with and people are dying. That's kind of tempered down somewhat. It's still tragic, it's still awful, and it's still going to be with us for a very long time. But I think in terms of sort of the media response to this has calmed down an awful lot. The sort of country's response to it has matured somewhat. So I think also people's perceptions and views of it have tempered. There's still an awful lot of what the fuck with it all. But I think it's a kind of a realization that this is what it is now. This is what we're having to deal with. It's a crazy, crazy time, but we still have to live. We still have to go on with our lives. We still have to play games, listen to music, have fun, and do what we can when we can. And I also think that, you know, Sony initially was scared by that, as were awful lot of companies. They were sort of anything that had any kind of reference to viruses or things going viral or things just referencing any kind of drama, they sort of wanted to shy away from it because, you know, it was just all a bit crazy. And then I think that with the whole thing on Netflix, if we turn over to Netflix, and there was a huge demand for their pandemic program and other sort of pandemic films and movies and so on. There's been just what's that movie? Contagion has been one of the most downloaded sort of older movies of recent times. You know, it's just been people are going crazy for that movie, and it is a great movie. So I think with all that sort of packaged together, it's made companies such as Sony think, well, okay, so people aren't shying away from it. They're not being scared by it. They understand the situation that we're in and can differentiate between sort of reality of what we're experiencing with COVID-19 and the extreme bizarreness, you know, storytelling that is The Last of Us 2. And I think in some ways, you know, as with a lot of corporate entities such as Sony, they sort of treat us a bit like dummies. It's like, oh, we don't want to upset anyone. We don't want to upset anyone at all because there's such fragile little creatures out there and they won't understand and they'll think that The Last of Us 2 is real or something. But no, of course we don't. We understand it's a game. It's one we've all been looking forward to. The majority of people that are going to be picking up The Last of Us 2 anyway would have pretty much played The Last of Us, the original one. So we kind of get the deal. You know, we get it, Sony. So I really feel that all the excuses that they made about why it was initially not being released within the window that they stated, and now we're having this about turn, and now it's coming out in June, it is all to do with that uncertainty they had, and they didn't want Sony to be caught up in any kind of drama. And here's the thing, I get it as well, because at the time, you think about it, the Twitterati, the crazies out there the media too would have been part of this, would have jumped right on this and said, this is appalling. How dare Sony release a game that's this, and this, and it's awful and terrible. And is this what it's going to be like? You know, and you can just tell that's what the media and all the Twitterati would have done. And there'll be all this hate against games, all this hate against Sony, and Sony don't need that, especially with this being the swan song of the PlayStation 4. And also, we're expecting the PlayStation 5 coming up. They don't want that kind of bad press. So I get why they've done it. But I think also equally, they have to treat us, the gamer, who are the ones that are going to be buying this, with a bit more respect and understanding, and realize that we are quite adult. You know, the majority of people that will play this are adults, because it is an 18 plus game. And most gamers are in their, you know, good number of gamers now are my age, and, you know, old farts and younger. You know, it's been going on generations. So we get the deal. So I think, you know, Sony could have had perhaps a bit more respect about it, and they could have just simply said, we don't want to release it right now because with what's going on in the world, we don't think it's appropriate right now, but we will review it month after month and then release it later. Rather than coming out with this spurious sort of, oh, well, it's all to do with logistics and there's not enough plastic in the world to make the cases for, I'm making that up, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just lame excuses. So what are your thoughts on this? I know for one, I'm hugely excited about the release of The Last of Us 2. It's just around the corner. It's within that grasp, isn't it? We can just sort of taste it. It's in the air. And I think it's incredibly exciting. I've not watched any. There's this new video that's floating around regarding that has some real spoilers in it. I've not watched it. I will not watch it. I won't read anything about it. I'm not going to spoil my experience of an amazing game, or hopefully amazing game, just because some idiot wants to spoil it and get some views on YouTube. I'm not going to sort of furnish that person with some advertising revenue by watching that video. And I don't want to spoil the game for myself either. So, and I don't get the people, that cry, well, you spoiled the game for me because I watched a video that had 1,000,001 spoilers in it. Now I know what The Last of Us 2 is going to be all about. How dare you? Look, people, grow up. If you don't want to know what the story of The Last of Us 2 and what all the spoilers are and what all the plot twists are, then don't watch the bloody video. It's quite simple. And then finally, just on a sort of side note, we've also got another amazing game being released by Sony, Ghost of Tsushima, which is literally going to be released a few days before. So I'm just going to be attached to my PlayStation from the middle of June onwards until I've both finished the Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2. And it's a real challenge. What do I play first? Here's the thing. My money's on that I'll play a bit of Ghosts first. When Last of Us 2 comes out, full in on that, head down, lights off. Everyone can leave me alone. I'm in Last of Us 2 self-isolation. Leave me alone. When I've completed that, back to Ghost of Tsushima for the rest of the year. I think that's my self-isolation, my self-distancing sorted for a while. Anyway, are you excited by all this? You really should be. You really should be. I do hope you are. So that's me for today. If you like this video, or like videos like this, do you like me doing videos where I'm just talking over a demo of some gameplay and just talking absolute bollocks, probably? Let me know in the comments below. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments below, and either way I'll probably ignore it anyway. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, because that really helps the channel and the video, of course. And right now, to be honest, I could really do with it. Ever since you know, the self-isolation, distancing rules and so on, seems people aren't really watching my videos so much. Not sure why that is. Perhaps they're crap. Maybe that's why. Perhaps I should do better. I should always do better. If you think I should do better, perhaps you should subscribe as well. And if you do, don't forget to click the bell, because, you know, that helps too. So I hope you're well. I hope you're not crawling up the walls with self-isolation. And I hope all this drama that we're all living through right now will eventually, and it will, all eventually pass, and we'll be back to some kind of normality. Distancing and all that will still be a thing, but at least we'll be able to get back to some normality and see real, living, breathing people again. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you next time.